nobody is doing what we're doing here.
For decades, Impro theater has been creating completely improvised plays in the styles of the world's most famous playwrights, authors, and genres. We've taught hundreds of students their craft of narrative improvisation and have shared the stage with so many other talented performers. Now, we need your help to keep that stage alive and to discover what comes next.
It's like they're Cirque du Soleil or something.
You can't help yourself. You have to laugh.
I just remember I was just having a blast for an hour.
Improv isn't just about performance and storytelling. It's about engagement and connecting with each other, being a better listener, being a better partner, and building on the ideas of those around you.
The Impro journey started a friend of mine saying, hey, you're into improv. There's going to be a Twilight Zone improvised. Right after that was done, we said, hey, we got to sign up for this.
Impro theater is committed to growing into a more diverse organization, to become a better version of ourselves, to be a place that creates community through art.
It's just getting started with regards to what it can be.
We want to expand our faculty and build a more inclusive school, and to reach out for new collaborations both here in the LA theater community and with artists around the world.
It's exciting to see that we're trying to be active in getting people from different walks of life.
With your tax-deductible donation, you will help support artists, writers, directors, storytellers, and more. We hope you'll help fund the future of this joyful, unique art form and support Impro theater and its school and the next generation of narrative improvisers. Every relationship is a story, and we look forward to our story with you.
Impro Theater and the cast and crew of this online performance would like to take this time to honor the indigenous peoples of the ancestral and unceded homelands we each inhabit, and to consider the legacy of colonization and its far-reaching effects.
Good evening, everybody. Just in time for dogs to bark. Welcome to the Impro Community Jam. I'm your host. My name is Doc, and some people know me as Faryl. My pronouns are she, her. And let me give you a little visual description. Right now, I'm sitting in a box frame that looks like an old-timey TV set. There is a gray curtain behind me that right now is translucent, but as the sun sets here in California, that will probably just become gray. We share pronouns so that nobody feels singled out or like they have to give their pronouns. And we give visual descriptions just to help people who might have visual impairment to know whose voice goes with what. Our show tonight is going to be a salute to the many Emmy nominees. We will see how the programs and people nominated for Emmys will inspire our games tonight. But right now, let's meet this fantastic cast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julia MacArthur, and this she, her, they, them may not have an EGOT, but people say, "Egads, you look like Angelica Houston."
Hey, my name's Ian Carroll. My pronouns are my own. Gender me as you will in scenes. Visual description is if SpongeBob SquarePants was a surfer bro, that would be pretty close to what I look like. Behind me is a practical set with whiskey barrels. And sometimes I am a furry red puppet that has bloodshot eyes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Kahn from the film capital of Rhode Island, and my pronouns are she and hers. And my visual description is I'm a Caucasian woman with long hair that's kind of hennaed a little bit, retro polka dots on, and I'm standing in front of a backdrop that is early 90s comedy club bricks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Gaffney. He, him, his. I have a virtual backdrop, which is actually just an ordinary entryway to a home, which could look like my home, but I will be switching backdrops throughout. And I am a middle-aged male Caucasian.
Hi, I'm Joe Teeters from Columbus, Ohio. He, him are my pronouns. I'm standing in front of a white wall, and I have a blue shirt. I look like my father, if you know him, and I have short salt and pepper hair, and I'm wearing glasses.
Hi, George Caliotis, he, him, his. I am a shadowy lurking figure. I look like Jason Alexander's evil twin that came across in the transporter accident. And my backdrop is an old red velvet Emmy screen.
Hi, I'm Julia, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am a middle-aged white lady with short red hair, wearing a red and black shirt, sitting on a heating pad.
Hi, my name is Carla Varney, she, her. I am wearing a blue shirt. I am a Caucasian woman wearing purple glasses, and I have bangs, and I have a brown hair, and behind me is a gray background.
Hi, I'm Brian Erzik, just a regular white guy with brown poofy hair, plaid shirt, and the plains of Montana as my background.
Excellent. We have a great cast tonight. We have a big cast tonight. And so we are loving to get started. So there are a lot of shows that got a lot of Emmy nominations, and we're going to be saluting them as we go through the evening. The first show we're saluting is Ted Lasso. And they got 20 nominations. Yeah. In summation of this show, it is a story of an American football coach, Ted Lasso, who's a very optimistic guy. He gets hired to go over to England to coach a soccer team. They also call it football, that has kind of a losing record. But that doesn't dim any of Ted's optimism. And there's a guy on the team named Roy Kent who's like really grumpy. He's from the north of England, and he's a veteran player, and he's pessimistic about everything. And his pessimism is kind of not daunted by Ted's optimism. We salute Ted Lasso and its co-creator, Brendan Hunt, who is a member of the Los Angeles theater and improv community. Brendan personally got 4 Emmy nominations, which is awesome. And we're going to salute his show by playing a little game called Yay Boo. And each of our players is going to get a chance to participate in this game. In the game of Yay Boo, 2 players will come out here and they will narrate a story for you. They will alternate sentences of narrating this story that will be based on your suggestion of a mundane or boring activity, which I should have said like 2 minutes ago. So a mundane or boring activity. So they will be narrating a scene about somebody or somebody's doing a mundane or boring activity. And in their alternating, one person will have a sentence that's very positive that will make us all want to say, yay. And then the other person will say a sentence that's very pessimistic that will make us all want to say boo. There's a lot of ways that you might be called out in this game. If your yay wasn't yay enough, if your boo wasn't boo enough, or just if I feel like it because we want to get everybody out here on stage. Much fun will be had. So let's get 2 people out here. Let's start with George and Amy. George and Amy, come on out. And everyone else, please turn off your camera, including moi. Val, could you, there they are. Val, could you please supply us with a mundane activity that George and Amy are going to be telling a yay boo story about?
Why, sure. How about walking the dog?
Walking the dog. Begin, Amy. You will be yay.
Rhonda took her little Pekingese out for a walk one fine morning.
Yay!
Only 5 or 6 years before the Pekingese was to die.
Ooh.
Fortunately, that meant she had 5 to 6 wonderful more years to spend time with Mr. Fluffykins.
Yay!
Not to mention half her paycheck on the food and veterinary bills the puppy would undoubtedly eventually need.
Really, a few veterinary bills are just a small price to pay for unconditional lovey-kins.
She thought to herself as the bus came roaring around the corner.
This is, George, I'm going to have to call you out there because I am getting bummed. That's too much for me. So let's get Joe Teeters out here with Amy. Joe, my friend, you're going to be yay. Amy, you're going to be boo. And Val, maybe let's start a new mundane activity. What are they going to be telling a story about?
Feeding the fish.
Feeding the fish. Joe, get us started with a yay.
Stephanie always started every day by feeding her little goldfish and giving it a kiss.
Yay!
Unfortunately, her goldfish had a nasty fungal infection that crossed to her lips.
Ooh.
Stephanie was married to the best doctor in the valley, so she didn't mind a fungal infection.
Yay!
Unfortunately, her doctor husband was a gynecologist, so that did nothing for that set of lips.
Ooh. Amy, I have to call you out because I laughed. Oh, I'm sorry. It was awesome, but let's get the next person up here, who will be Carla. Hello, Carla. You're going to be yay. Joe, you're going to be boo. Val, do we have another mundane activity?
We do, thanks to at Simone in Tokyo. She has provided us all three of our suggestions, and this one is washing the dishes.
Thank you, Simone. Okay. Carla, give me a yay for washing the dishes.
Charles loved washing the dishes. He loved to have a very clean kitchen.
Yay! A clean kitchen to sit in solitude because Charles had 0 friends.
Ooh. Charles knew one day he would have a friend as he was taking pictures of his clean kitchen and posting.
Yay!
Yay!
Charles' hope for a friend soon faded when he was arrested for stealing cleaning supplies.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Charles looked forward to going to jail because where else can you get such good friends but in jail?
Yay! I'm going to call you there because delightful as jail friends are, I don't know if those are the kinds of friends you want to take home to mother. I don't know. There's good people in jail, I'm sure. Okay, and people who are wrongly in jail. Okay, so actually, Joe, since you've been up twice, we're going to get 2 totally new people. So let's get up here, Brian and Ian. Brian and Ian, you're going to yay and booing us. Yeah. Brian, with that fist pump, you're going to give us a yay.
Okay.
Val, do you have a suggestion for them?
I do. Bringing in the mail.
Bringing in the mail. Brian, take it away.
Oh, joyous day! Cried Jacob as he skipped to the mailbox in the front of his yard.
Yay! And then tripped on a small puppy that caused him to fall down and break his kneecap.
Oh. All Jacob could think about as he was writhing in pain was if that little dog was safe, it would have all been worth it because little dogs are the best.
Yay!
Unfortunately, the owner of that dog saw what happened and is immediately threatening a lawsuit.
Ooh.
Huzzah! Cried Jacob. I've always wanted to practice law. Now I get my chance.
Yay!
Then a meteor struck him.
Ooh. But you know, I'm gonna call not only because the dog didn't like it. You hear the dog barking. It's Deus Ex Machina. It's fine. Fine. Okay.
I'll let myself out.
Let's get Julia M up here. We have a couple of Julias to go. So Julia, you're gonna give me a yay, and Brian, you're gonna give me a boo. Val, I know we're burning through all those mundane activities. Do we have more?
Catching a bus.
Catching a bus.
There's nothing like the beat of the pounding heart as Charles tries to leap until he can catch the bus just as it turns the corner.
Yay!
Splat, went Charles in the gutter again.
Ooh. Brian, gonna call you there because nowhere to go. Nowhere to go, buddy.
All right.
That's, I know. It's
Another
so sad.
lawsuit.
But another big reason I call is I want to get Julia squared up here. Let's get Julia and Julia. Woo-hoo. Which this is going to be better than that movie, I tell you. Val, do we have one more activity for Julia and Julia?
Yes, because Simone in Tokyo is my hero, and she has given us renewed driver's license.
Nice, Simone in Tokyo. Thank you. Renew your driver's license, Julia. You're given the yay.
Lisa was excited. It was finally time to ditch her previously terrible driver's license picture and get a new one.
Yay!
And then the DMV's website was down, so she couldn't make an appointment. So she walked in and had to wait in a 5.5 hour line.
Oh, boo.
Unfortunately, she had brought an entire set of Fablehaven novels, and she was going to catch up on her reading.
Yay! I say.
Unfortunately, her cat Snickers decided to use the first 5 chapters as some kind of scratching post. Thus, she will never know if Lord Binkerton really truly loved her.
Boo.
She put down the book and made eye contact with a handsome stranger.
Ooh, yay.
They were tall, dark, mysterious, and they had a dog.
Oh, boo. Boo. Dogs. Although I'm going to call you there, Julia M, because there is
not when you're a cat person there now, Doc Faryl.
See, that's what I was going to say, is that there might be a world where dogs and cats get along. You know, we don't want to promote disharmony.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
There you go. Matt, my friend, tell me if you have gone yet, because there's so many players. You have not? Then here we go, our big wrap up. Thank you, Matt. You're going to come in with a big yay for me. Val, has our friend Simone in Tokyo given one more mundane activity?
She has indeed. Dentist appointment.
Dentist appointment. Off you go.
Samantha woke up and rushed to her dentist appointment to have her pearly whites polished.
Yay!
But unfortunately, due to COVID, she hadn't been able to see her dentist in over 2 years, and her coffee and candy habit had taken a toll on her teeth.
Boo. You know, I'm going to call this right there, because I too have been putting off that dentist appointment. Maybe not so much coffee and candy, but yeah, it's been a while since I've gone to the dentist. Thank you, everybody. That was a game of yay, boo. Woo-hoo.
Yay.
And we are going on to our next salute, and not a moment too soon. Our suggestions from the audience. Let's see who can boost our friend Simone from Tokyo. We want to get suggestions of classic TV shows. Yes, the things you watched in a little box that looks like the frame that I have that looks like an old-timey TV. Classic TV shows could be last season, it could be any time. Why are we asking about classic TV shows? Because we are saluting WandaVision. WandaVision, which got 23 nominations, I had to check my clipboard just to be sure, is, spoiler-free, the story of 2 superheroes who are married to each other. They're living life in the suburbs, and each episode takes the tropes and style of a different classic TV show. So to salute that, we are going to play a little game called Genre Roller Coaster. And let's get up here. Our WandaVision saluters are Matt, Julia M, and Brian. There they are. They're going to start an ordinary scene. If we have any more leftover suggestions of a mundane activity, that would be oh so awesome. Val, do we have any more leftovers?
In my brain, we do. Baking a cake.
From Val's brain to this scene, we'll be baking a cake. Periodically, I will stop the scene. I will ask Val to tell us some of the classic TV shows you're suggesting. And this baking a cake scene will suddenly take on the format of that classic TV show you have suggested. Ready, players, and begin.
I just cannot wait.
It smells ready. Right, Daryl? It smells ready.
It's deception. It's got to be perfect.
You know, David, this cake is a lot like you and me. It's soft on the outside, but it's stale on the inside.
I don't know if I'm insulted as your friend or as the baker.
Don't listen to him, David. Don't listen to him.
No, I'm not.
Abigail, you're always sticking up for him.
And let's get a new genre that we're going to lay on this scene.
I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy. Continue the scene in the tropes of I Love Lucy.
Why do you always support him so much? It's so confusing to me.
Michael, he's my brother. Why do you gotta yell at me, huh?
Hey, come over here. I'm asking to bake a cake for you. I'm doing these things. I live next door. My wife's weird. I don't get it.
Hey, you lucky we're giving you cakes. You lucky we're baking a cake from scratch, you know.
That's right. You tell him.
This is crazy. This is so crazy. I can't stand this anymore.
And freeze, and we're going to get our next genre. Val, what's our next TV show?
Oh, let's go with I Dream of Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie.
There's a giant mess in here full of jungle stuff. Where did that come from?
Oh, don't worry about it.
Blink. Now it's all gone. Jeannie, I'm worried you're using your powers too much.
Oh, David, come on now. It's only to help cook and clean and, well, bake this cake. And, well, you are spending a lot more time with Michael recently, but that's quite all right, I assume, right? Because nothing's going on. I mean, NASA's a very, very, very big place, right?
I can't hear anything in this damn bottle. Someone would just...
And freeze with Roger Healy in the bottle there. Let's get our next classic TV show.
The Addams Family.
The Addams Family.
Abigail, I hope the cake poisons Roger.
Michael, tell me again, mon frère. Tell me.
When he dies, it will just be you and I. Bring him in and feed him the cake.
Yes.
The joke's on you. That's how I always wanted to die. Via cake.
Oh, Mom.
This is wonderful. Michael, open your mouth.
And on Uncle Fester Michael dying by cake, I'm going to freeze it there because she spoke French, which is a great thing. And that is our game of genre roller coaster, which was awesome.
Yay!
And we've got an audience that really loves and appreciates those 1960s sitcoms, and there is nothing like them. That was awesome. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to our next game here, which is going to be a salute to Bridgerton. Bridgerton. How many nominations did it get? Why, 12 nominations, say my clipboard. Now, I haven't actually seen Bridgerton. I've heard that it's a lot of Regency era, early 1800s sex. Don't try and change my mind about it. I assume that's what this game is about and what this TV show is about. And therefore, we're going to play a game of the dating game, early 1800s style, Regency era. Now, in the dating game, we're going to need, because this is going to be in the Regency era, which is early 1800s, old-timey things and people, things you might have seen in the early 1800s. So that could be people and professions. It could be like a candle maker. There's no electricity, so you probably wouldn't have seen a CD player, which runs on batteries. But so give me a list of things or people you would have seen in the early 1800s. And let's get out here a very eligible and marriageable, proper young lady, Julia I. Politely clapping for Julia I. Julia I, we're going to present you with some suitors for your hand. So, my dear, it's not proper for you to stay here. You need to be gone. Mr. Chris, would you so kindly send Julia I to another room? Thank you. So Julia I is now in the waiting room. She can't hear or see what we're doing. We need your suggestions of those things from the early 1800s that are going to inspire our three suitors with what kind of people or things or objects they are going to be while they are trying to win Julia's hand. So let's get out here Amy, Joe, and George. Hello, Amy, Joe, and George. Val, do we have some suggestions of early 1800s things or people that we can use to inspire these lovely suitors for Julia's hand?
We do indeed. We have horse and carriage, we have parasol, and we have blacksmith.
Okay. George, would you so kindly take on the suggestion of blacksmith? Blacksmith. For those of you who don't know, that's a person who does things with hot metal. Amy, dear, would you so kindly take on a horse and buggy? Horse and buggy. Thank you, dear. And Joseph, my dear, that leaves for you, please, a parasol as your inspiration. So now that we know what our suitors are being inspired by, and that machine noise is coming to my home again, Mr. Chris, would you so kindly invite back Miss Julia? And there she is. Oh, Julia, my dear, I am so glad to make your acquaintance of three people. Now, you cannot see their faces, for that would not be proper. That's not how we play the dating game in the Regency era. So, you will find out more about these people by asking them very proper questions, and perhaps by asking them very proper questions. And you may with your eyes gaze upon their faces, but you will not know their hearts unless you ask them questions. So, your questions of these suitors will help you to know what inspires them in life and who will be the suitable mate for you, my dear. Now, I must away. Farewell, Julia. Ask your questions.
Oh. Ooh, hello. Hello. I'm so excited to have guests in my home. Who is first? Let me see. I would like to speak with suitor number 1. My question is, I enjoy going to social events. Where would you take me on a social event?
Well, I'd probably start off by taking you to a hot metal show.
Metal show.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a concert, but different.
Similar, yes. Suitor 2, where same question, where would you take me on a social outing?
Oh, goodness. I would take you to actually a bridal salon. Actually, we'll just jump right in and don't try and rein me in.
Oh, I love your forward thinking. Okay, suitor 3, what social event would you take me to?
Well, I'd probably take you to the park on a nice sunny day where we could sit back and enjoy the handiwork of my labor.
Ah, excellent. Okay. I am very particular about who gets to meet my parents. So, what qualities do you, suitor 1, possess that my parents would be pleased to hear about?
Oh, hey, I got a trade, you know? I mean, people are always going to need, you know, you don't get through in this day and age without visiting me every now and again. So, I was a journeyman apprentice for like a year. So my skills are rock solid.
Excellent, excellent. Suitor 2, what do you have to say for yourself with my family?
Goodness, parents can't resist me. They, you might say that they're so happy that their tails are wagging, completely wagging.
Oh, excellent. And suitor 3, same query.
Well, I think your parents would be mighty impressed with the fact that I've prevented countless cases of melanoma just this year alone.
Oh, interesting, interesting. So my final question is for each of my suitors is I love the finer things in life. So what would you decorate our home with Suitor 1.
Rejected horseshoes.
Excellent. Thank you. Suitor 2.
Oh, goodness. I wouldn't reject those horseshoes. I find them quite lucky at times, actually. But
Excellent.
I'd go right for the wheel thing.
Gotcha. And Suitor 3.
Many windows to let the sun shine in. After all, it's what puts food on our table.
Excellent. I think that I'm ready to make my decision.
Oh, my dear, I was just coming to ask you the very same. We are but one mind, though we are two people. My dear, of these three suitors, what do you think of what they told you, and which one has won your heart?
Well, I'm going to eliminate Suitor 2 because I don't date animals. And she's a horse and carriage of some sort.
Oh, very well spotted. Well spotted, dear.
There you go. And I'm going to eliminate Suitor 3 for the same reason that I don't date vegetables, and he's like a forest or a tree.
Oh, my dear, I can understand not wanting to date a forest. Perhaps if I were to cast some shade on you and be a bit shady, and you could twirl this question around in your mind.
A parasol, umbrella.
Indeed, a parasol, my dear.
No, I don't date inanimate objects.
Excellent.
But a blacksmith farrier. Now that I can be excited about.
Indeed, you shall make a fine match with the blacksmith farrier. Oh, I must call everyone I've ever met.
It's quite a scandal, really.
Quite the scandal.
Scandal.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know how I shall call them, for the telephone has not yet been invented, but I shall call. Thank you, everyone. That was a lovely round of the dating game. We enjoyed that quite a bit. I enjoyed that. Everyone enjoyed that. Thank you. A fine audience. There are many shows that got many nominations. The top vote getters, the top nomination getters were The Crown, The Mandalorian, and then kind of close to the top was Queen's Gambit. Now, let me tell you, Lovecraft Country also got a lot of nominations. So I'm going to throw one of my absolute favorite shows of last season in there, Lovecraft Country. So we have 4 television shows that were right at the top of the Emmy nominations: The Crown, The Mandalorian, The Queen's Gambit, and Lovecraft Country. Now, why do I bring these up? Because, fine audience, I'm sure you saw at least one of them, or you think you know what the show is about. Please put in the chat lines that you might have heard spoken during one of those shows, or all of those shows. Any lines that might have been spoken during The Crown, The Mandalorian, The Queen's Gambit, and Lovecraft Country. And we're going to play a little game of Surprise Line. So let's get our players for Surprise Line out here. That is going to be Carla, Brian, George, and Ian. Welcome back, everybody, or welcome forward. The way we play Surprise Line is that these people are going to be doing a very ordinary scene. I think that Simone from Tokyo, who gave us so many fine suggestions, I'll help her out. I'll come up with a suggestion for this. I will pick a random object within my arm's reach. But in any case, these 4 fine people will be doing a scene about something very ordinary found around the house. They will, at a certain point, signal our moderator, Val, and I'm sitting up so I can show you, using the American Sign Language sign for please, which is a flat palm against your chest in a clockwise motion. They are going to say please using American Sign Language. And Val is going to kind of toward the left shoulder and then toward the tummy. There you go. Now we all got it. And then Val is going to supply us with a line that our wonderful audience has been putting in the Twitch chat. And that player will speak that line as though it came out of their very own mind. And they will find a way to justify that as part of the scene. So we will have a lot of fun hearing a lot of dialogue you might have heard during The Crown, The Mandalorian, The Queen's Gambit, or Lovecraft Country. Players, are you ready?
Yes.
And begin.
I tell you.
What do you have to tell me, George?
Oh, man. God, I'm just now understanding all the stories you told me when I was a kid are parables on life, on how to live a good life. I just got it.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. And Dorothy, how about you? Have you learned anything?
No, sorry, I don't understand parables. I just want people to tell me straight up what things are.
Oh, Dorothy, you always were hard to teach, but that's all right because I love you anyway. I love both of you very much. I have something important to tell you. I'm dying. And before I do, I see, George, that you have something in your heart that you wish to tell me about the fact that I am dying.
I have something really important to say. It is the way.
Ah, yes. Yes, you see, you do understand the parables I've been saying. It is the way that everyone should grow old and die. Dorothy, I hope that wasn't too metaphorical for you, but you are, of course, my loved daughter. Do you have anything to say about the fact that I'm dying?
Well, I don't know that it is the way. I mean, how is that a parable? I'm so confused, Father. If it is the way, then we're all going to die, right? I mean, we're all...
Dorothy, I do have something that I've always said, and I'm going to say it again, right now. That is no way to speak to a lady. Now, I know I'm your grandfather, but I've decided, finally, that actually I'm a woman. And I wish to be spoken to as if I am a woman. Now, what do you have to say about that, Dorothy, especially since I'm dying and I'm a lady?
Let's just... Grandmother, I mean, should I call you grandmother? Oh, I've always wanted to play ladies. And a lady with you. Grandfather, I just didn't know. I
Dorothy, let me grab you by the hair that you have so delicately across your head and stroke it gently and tell you, you finally understand. You do. Now, to discuss my inheritance that I am to give you, Dorothy, I'm going to give you a quarter of what I'm going to give George. Is that all right by everybody?
Heck yeah. People are
Excellent,
like,
George.
You have all
Dorothy.
kinds of stories hiding within your reach.
I
It's a
always like
parable.
the fact that you got all my metaphors.
a quarter of what George is gonna get? Grandfather, I mean, lady.
Yes, lady.
Father.
Lady father.
Lady father. I was the one who knew that you always wanted to be a lady. But I wanted to wait until you were ready to say it, so I think I deserve at least half of your inheritance.
Wow. That is an incredible point that she just made. Dorothy, you just told your first parable.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yes, you have. You see, people are like books. They have all kinds of stories hiding within your reach. And you, Dorothy, now are a book hiding within my reach as your father, lady. And I wish to tell you that I am going to give you 75% of my inheritance.
Yes!
And I'm going to give George the rest of the 25%.
That's more than I deserve. I'm still excited.
Excellent. Now it's time for me to get into the euthanasia chamber. Time is a-wasting.
Right this way, sir.
Excellent. No, not so, though. Treat me as a lady. I told you.
I need to remind you that when you're in there, the most important thing about the euthanasia chamber is your move.
Ah.
Yeah,
I
you gotta
understand.
do this. I can't help you at all legally. I can open the door for you, but you have to get in, turn the machine on, and then stay in there.
But before I do, I need you to affirm my gender identity. I am a lady. Say it.
You're a lady.
I am. And my move shall be something very important that...
Lady Father, take this shawl and be a rightful lady in
Excellent.
your euthanasia chamber.
Ah, Dorothy, you are the queen, and the people need you to lead the way. And that is why I have now given you the 75% of the inheritance. Now, finally, I must go and do the Macarena as my final act. But before I do the Macarena, I do have one last thing that I need to tell all of you, and it is the most important thing that I have learned being alive.
What is it,
That
lady?
thing is that I am with the Jedi.
Oh, well, this thing's not going to work on you then.
Oh no!
Everybody knows that.
Oh, curses, I wanted to die today.
This was the best. This was the best. Those 4 programs came together to give us a story of a family, of someone finally living their truth in their very last day, and of a euthanasia machine, which I did not pronounce correctly. Euthanasia machine. That was awesome, you guys. I love that. It's terrific. Thank you. We are flying here. We are having a great time, and we're ready for our next show. That's a salute. This one is going to be a salute to a show that I liked quite a lot last season. Now, I already told you I liked Lovecraft Country. That was my favorite, like horror, drama, history, inclusive, educational, fantastic show. But there was another show that was inclusive and educational and amazing this last year. It was Pen 15. Pen 15 on Hulu. And just real briefly, this is a great show that I loved a lot. They got 4 nominations, but it's a show, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go, but it's definitely a show where people need advice. So, dear people in the audience, dear friends, what do you need advice about? What are you wondering about? What question is on your mind? What would you really like to hear about from someone else? What would you like advice about? And while you're writing that, I will tell you that the reason we are asking for people to ask questions that they need advice about, or just that they don't know the answer to. What's the circumference of the Earth? I don't know. Somebody knows. But questions of advice you need to really get somebody's viewpoint on. And we have a panel today of people who are some of the greatest experts at giving advice. They're fantastic. They're good advice givers. Let's get them out here. We are going to see 4 people who, I'll let them introduce themselves. So let's see the 4 people who are gathered panelists today. And I will let them tell you a little bit about themselves. There you go. There's 3 of them. We've got there's the 4th person. Hello, panel. Let's start with this person who's wearing a hat. Who was the first person to come on? They're wearing a white backwards hat and a black shirt. Could you introduce yourself to us, please?
Yeah, my name's Wally, but people call me Firecracker. So you can call me Firecracker.
Why do they call you Firecracker? Dare I ask?
Well, I get in trouble for it, but I have a lot of energy, but I also like to set things on fire.
That makes sense to me now. That makes sense to me now. Let's see. Now we have a person here with us who is wearing a blue shirt and glasses. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Todd Clark. I am the third generation student council president at Tays Valley Middle School. Yep, that's right. Long line of Clarks here at Tays Valley.
Wow. So you're like a what do they call that? A legacy? Are you a legacy?
Oh no, I earned this of my own right. I'm not a legacy. I won that election fair and square.
Okay. Okay. So you've got history in the city, but not necessarily on the student council. I'm getting. Okay, I'm getting it now. We have someone who has just darling ponytails. Can you tell us who you are?
I'm Jennifer Fennerton. And my mom said that I'd be a good expert because I think I know everything.
Well, you've got a funny bone, don't you?
I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry.
A little nervous. Okay. Well, we have one more person to hear from who's sliding into her own DMs right now. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi. I'm I'm Maya, and hi.
Yeah, you're on camera. Are you not used to seeing yourself on camera? Are you enjoying yourself on camera?
Yeah. I know him. Hey, firecracker.
All right. Oh, friends in the audience, did I mention to you in Pen 15, it's a story about middle school and everyone is 13 years old. So our panel of experts are 13 years old, but that does not stop them from being excellent advice givers. Val, can we get our first question that people would like to hear some advice about?
Why, yes. Simone in Tokyo is actually interviewing for jobs right now, and she wants to know the best way to do an interview.
The best way to do an interview. That's great. Well, why don't we go in the reverse order of the way you introduce yourself? So we'll start with Maya, then Jennifer, and young man, you're such a great community leader, and I don't recall your name. Todd, and then Firecracker. So Maya, how do you interview for a job?
Oh, that's totally easy. You just ask your dad for money.
Ask your dad. Okay. Jennifer, do you have some advice for us?
Yes.
How do you?
If you're gonna interview for a job, you want to start off by showing them your test club trophies and the prize you won for the spelling bee in second grade.
Oh my gosh! So you got a bunch of trophies.
Yeah.
Very nice. That's better than a resume. That's physical evidence. Very nice. Todd, what would your advice be for interviewing for a job?
Well, the first step is to make sure you get a good night's sleep. Make sure you go to bed, brush your teeth first, go to bed, get a nice, comfy night's sleep, wake up bright-eyed, have a good, solid breakfast, and then you'll go in there and knock their socks off.
That sounds like a really excellent advice for anything. Good night's sleep, be rested, good breakfast. Very nice, Todd.
Yep, you can't be your best unless you do your best.
There you go. Very nice. Firecracker, what's your advice?
Well, I think the Hulk could get any job because he's so intimidating, gets so big. So I get really angry and I would go in and I would show him who his boss, and I would be the strongest and most intimidating guy, and I could have any job if I were the Hulk.
So Hulk out. Okay. Simone, you got a lot of good advice there to choose from. That's a pretty good range. Val?
Cool.
Yeah?
Do we have another question to ask for our fine panel here?
Yeah. Somebody wants to know if it's possible to get around Los Angeles without a car.
Oh, oh my gosh. Thank you for speaking up, Val. Very good. So, panel, how would we get around Los Angeles without a car? I see firecrackers ready to go.
So if the Flash is actually faster than any cars, it's true. The Flash it's faster than any other transportation. Like he can run around the world faster than anything else.
So be the Flash. And Jennifer, I saw you had a lot of agreement with that. What would your advice be? You agree with Firecracker? Or you got something different here?
Oh my god, like I have a collection of Flash comic books and so I agree with that. But like usually I just ride the bus and take my Trapper Keeper covered with my Lisa Frank stickers and ride around.
Do you want to come over later?
Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness!
Well,
wait, I gotta write about this in my diary. Hold on. Continue. All right.
Wow, this is we're doing some networking here. Maya, looks like you're having some feelings about that, and Todd, you do too. Let's go with Maya. What are you thinking about getting around Los Angeles or?
Well, I mean, I was going to say, like, definitely, I love The Flash. He's super hot. I love all the CW shows. I hope Batwoman and Supergirl, like, all of them are so good. I just don't understand why people don't Uber anymore. Like, wasn't that a thing? That's what my bigger sister said, and now she's all like, "Oh my god, she's so rated."
Maya, you okay? You okay, buddy, Maya? Buddy, you okay, buddy? Maybe we better move on. Todd, transportation thoughts.
Yeah, you see, all of us can't be the Flash. All of us can't be superheroes. We gotta face the fact that we're just normal mortal people, and so we have to devise a plan for good public transportation. And that's why, my platform was to make sure that every kid who had to get anywhere had a number to call, like Uber, except it was a verified parent in the community who will take us places.
Todd, you are very thoughtful young man. You're going places, buddy. Not that all the rest of you aren't, but Todd, I'm very impressed. I'm going to give you extra credit today.
Thanks.
Val, you're welcome. Val.
Yo.
Now, Val, I know you've been hanging out in the back.
Yo.
Yeah. Can we get one more question for our panel? And please take your feet off the desk, Val.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, somebody wants to know, like, how's a good way to make new friends? Not like that I need any. I'm just saying.
I'm sure you're quite popular, Val. Panel, how do you make new friends? Let's start with Todd, the man with the plan.
The best way to make a friend is to be a friend. You have to, it all starts, I go back to get a good night's sleep, brush your teeth, eat your vegetables, and put yourself out there, put the joy out there in the world, and friendship will follow.
Sounds like a lot of getting a good night's sleep. Let's go to Firecracker.
Well, when Aquaman had to interact with some of the meanest sharks in the ocean, and they were hungry and angry, and they tried to eat Aquaman, he had to use his telepathic powers to communicate with the sharks so that they would be on his side. But sharks still eat people and other things, but not Aquaman.
So don't be friends with the shark. Don't be friends with the shark. Jennifer?
Oh goodness. To make a lot of friends, I generally start with imaginary ones and practice with them first. Because they're not as scary as real people.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy. That took bravery. That was very courageous. Thank you, young woman. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. I was calling you by your middle name, wasn't I?
It's my mom's Amy. What the
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, Maya, why don't you finish off this panel on a high note? How do you make friends, Maya?
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Okay.
Are you Insta-ing this?
Of course I am, because I don't need friends. I have followers. So hashtags. Hashtags is how you make friends, because that's the only thing that matters, everyone. I look around here and I'm like, superheroes, comics, like, help a grown up? What? No. It's all about the TikTok. It's all about the Insta. It's all about the Snap. Peace out, 2021. Pandemic over.
I sent you a follow request, Maya. I don't know if you got it. It's just it's not entered yet.
I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, so I block people.
Oh, Maya. And that, friends in our chat, that is our advice panel tonight. Thank you, the class at Horace Mann Middle School, for coming and giving some advice to our friends tonight. That was a lovely game. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on to our next game tonight. We've been saluting the Emmy nominees, but there's a lot of people who got snubbed. People in shows who got snubbed. People in shows who deserved nominations and didn't get them. Amber Ruffin, where's the love for her? Girls 5 Eva, yeah, we're very glad Meredith Scardino got a writing nomination, but where are the performing nominations? Mythic Quest, nada. Small Axe, that was a series of movies. They were fantastic. Where are the nominations? DeSusan and Mero, where are the nominations? Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, where are the nominations? So in honor of the people in shows that got snubbed, we are going to play a game called Emmy Winning Moment. And for this game, let's get up here Julia, Carla, and Ian. Julia, Carla, and Ian, thank you very much. And audience, you can help us out on this. Please give us a suggestion of something that someone might inherit. Either you've inherited or you're thinking of giving to someone else. A family heirloom or inheritable object. And what these fine people are going to do, they're going to give a scene that is they're going to start a scene that is inspired by this family heirloom or inherited object. And at certain points, I am going to call out someone's name and tell them this is their Emmy winning moment. And what they will do is they will give you the performance in that moment that earns them their Emmy nomination, or should have earned them their Emmy nomination, in honor of those who were snubbed. It could be the song moment, the speech moment, the silent bit. I don't know what it's going to be, but it was that clip that their agent sent in that got them that nomination, or should have. So Val, do we have a suggestion from the audience of a family heirloom that can inspire this scene?
We actually got several really good ones, but I'm going to take one that is a plot of land in the desert.
A plot of land in the desert. Excellent. Maybe we will recycle those other suggestions in the next game. Inspired by plot of land in the desert, this is Emmy winning moment. Ready? And begin.
Yeah. 2 hours for us to get here.
Yeah, and so many cacti.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all agreed. Selling.
I'm buying.
Wait, what?
I'm buying. I'm buying, Grenda.
This nothingness? You're buying it?
Ian, Emmy winning moment.
Yeah. Philippa, When I left New York City, I left a crowded, busy metropolis, just teeming with people, shoulder to shoulder, every single second. And you know what I needed? You know what I needed, Philippa? I needed some peace and quiet. Just a little peace and quiet. Just a bit of peace and quiet out here in this wilderness, this sun-scorched, desert-soaked, UV-irradiated wilderness. And none of you are going to take that from me.
And end Emmy-winning moment. Continue the scene.
I'm buying.
Oh, well, I didn't know you felt that way. It's not like you discussed it with us at any point.
Exactly. Jared, it's all of our money. It's all three of us are making a choice about this land. Are you going to buy us out then of this land, Jared?
What do you think, Philippa? What do you think?
And just where, Jared, are you going to get that money? Where's he going to get the money?
Carla, this is your Emmy-winning moment.
Our parents left us this land so all three of us could come together and make a choice to either sell it or keep it. That's it. And if we do not agree, then we must stay in the desert for 3 nights with no cover and no water and food until we come to some sort of decision. I don't know if I can do that. I can't be here any longer. It is so hot and it is so nothing. I do not want us to make that choice 3 days from now. We need to make a choice now. We all keep it or we all sell it. No one keeps it alone. No one.
End Emmy-winning moment. And back to the scene.
I'm buying. And you can't stop me. Neither of you.
I mean, we actually can. That's how, the three-way inheritance works. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, you have the money to buy us out. You do have the money to buy us out. Because I would love nothing more than to keep you from having your dream.
Julia, this is your Emmy-winning moment.
To keep you from finding your quiet internal place, your peace, your joy. I will make it my mission. I will keep it.
And an Emmy-winning moment. And back to our scene.
I believe you. I believe you both. You're both terrible sisters.
That's true.
And I have something to say about that all. And it's this. I don't care. I'm gonna make drugs and sell those.
Oh, why didn't you lead with that? Yeah, no, I'm in. If that's what you're doing, yeah, I'm in. You just should have said drugs at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make drugs and sell those.
Oh yeah, no, we can do that.
And the family that cooks together camps out in a sook together.
Group hug, group hug.
There you go. Excellent. Excellent, everybody. Thank you. That was a triple Emmy-winning moment. Thank you, everybody. We are going to wrap up with our final game. We are going to play a quick round in salute to the game to the television show Hacks. Hacks is on HBO Max. It's the story of a veteran nightclub stand-up comic played by Gene Smart, who hires a young writer to punch up her routine. That's played by Hannah Einbinder. Fun fact, that's Lorraine Newman's child. So everyone back on camera. In salute to hacks and the world of stand-up comedy, we are going to play a quick game called How Hot Was It? So in How Hot Was It, we are going to get inspirations from the audience of professions, or actually, you know what? Let's use some of these fun heirlooms that Val had seen in the chat. They will inspire us to come up with a pun or a joke that will have a structure of da-da-da-da was so blank. And we're all going to say, how blank was it? And then we're going to hear a hilarious punchline. And we're all going to love it. And we're going to move on from there. So Val, do you have an heirloom to inspire some of these stand-up comedy jokes?
Why, sure. How about a diamond bracelet?
A diamond bracelet. A diamond bracelet. Matt.
Hey, I saw this diamond bracelet the other day, and it was so bright.
How
bright was
it?
The sun had to put on some sunglasses.
Nice. Nice. That's bright. That's bright. That's bright. Brian.
Tell you what, I just met a rabbit that was super angry.
How
angry was it?
Because the ring wasn't enough carrots.
Oh, there you go. Nice. That hurts me inside, so that makes it a good pun. Thank you. More for diamond bracelet? Val, let's move on to our next heirloom.
All right, all right, all right. How about a house?
A house. And extra points apparently if you do it in the style of Matthew McConaughey, but a house. Let's have some jokes about a house. Amy.
My house was so expensive.
How
expensive
was it?
They had a monopoly on the hotels around it.
Nice.
Oh.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. And that is it. That is our time tonight. Fine audience members, thank you so much for joining us for our salute to the Emmy nominees. Thank you for your inspiration, Emmy nominees. Go Brendan Hunt, go nominees. Next week, the Impro Community Jam has the week off. We will see you again on July 30th. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, puppets.